Over 10 years ago, I started a travel documentary series called Humanity, which focused on inspirational people all over the world. My friend Gaston and I spent almost 3 years filming and releasing short documentaries, and in the process, learned how to make films. We never made any direct money from the series, but quite a few brands saw our series and started hiring us to make mini commercials and branded content for them. It was the start of my filmmaking journey. Humanity had thousands of followers and hundreds of thousands of views on Vimeo, but after a few years, we moved on to other projects. I've often toyed with the idea of starting a YouTube channel. With Humanity, I did something similar, a channel with a unique theme that put out consistent work. But something always stopped me from restarting this process. Maybe it was an especially busy year for work or branded content, or I wanted to focus on making bigger and more important films. Whatever it was, I never took the leap. Here are a few of the reasons why I decided that now was the time to start a YouTube channel. Number 1, I now have something to share. I've spent the last 10 years working full-time as a filmmaker, videographer, commercial maker, DP, and whatever other acronyms and titles you can throw on a person who makes films for a living. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I have also logged a lot of these mistakes and how I rectified them. And now I want to share what I've learned. I'm a completely self-taught filmmaker, so it's important to me to be able to pass down some of the insights, skills, and techniques that I've learned over the years to those who are starting out or want to continue learning and expanding their own skill set. Though I've been consistently working for a decade, I'm consistently impressed with the people here on YouTube who are sharing their own knowledge, whether through tutorials, their own setups, and even gear reviews, which I will admit I probably watch too many of. I've spent some time recently doing some consulting and training work, and I found it really fun and fulfilling. And I hope YouTube can offer me the same type of fulfilling work. And hopefully, I have some insights to share that you will find also useful, whether that's technical tips or business and career advice. Number 2, I've been working for 10 years, and though I know thousands and maybe millions of people have watched my work, I don't have my own audience. Building your own audience has become increasingly more important. As market shifts, buyers are tightening their belts, and even if you do sell your work, like I have with Netflix twice, they own this work for decades. It's pretty difficult to build a reputation as someone who creates quality and entertaining work within this system itself, unless you're one of the giant names in the industry. But I've been very impressed with some of the filmmakers on here who are being helpful at growing their audience, but also producing and releasing really high quality work. While at Sundance this year, premiering a film I co-produced and was the director of photography on, the award-winning film King Cole, I met Mark Bone, who runs what I think is one of the highest quality YouTube channels out there. Not only does he make helpful and informative content, he also makes great films, like his recent short documentary about storm chasers, Chase It From the South. It was refreshing to see someone who is making great work on YouTube and releasing it to an audience and instantly getting tens of thousands of views because he has been helpful to that audience and they're hungry for his content. I also have a lot of work and stories I want to tell that I know audiences will love, find enjoyable, and want to see, but that the major buyers may or may not be interested in at this particular moment. For the past few years, I've been working on a feature doc about professional boxing in Appalachia, which is a world that is full of intrigue and great characters. Initially, it looked like it was going to be picked up by one of the major streamers that we had worked with before as a doc series. But ultimately, after months of negotiations, they decided to pass because, quote, they only want to fund sports films that already have a built-in audience or are about well-known people. Obviously, this isn't the world of professional boxing in Appalachia, no matter how interesting or entertaining the film could be. That's why you see tons of high-profile athletes getting docs made about them, or on sports that have built-in audiences like F1 racing. This doesn't leave much room for independent producers, as it is usually the biggest production companies who are able to get access and permission from these high-profile subjects. And outside of YouTube itself, I generally dislike social media. It breeds resentment, egotism, and time wasted that I often get caught up in but don't want to be. YouTube feels a bit different because you generally have to create high-quality content to get noticed or you'll not really make a dent. It seems like it is the only place on the internet that is more about making great content and less about selling your personal soul and identity to get noticed. And YouTube seems to be a great place to grow a community of fellow filmmakers, both professional and aspirational, to continually share great work with. Gatekeepers still exist. For all the talk of democratization of art and film with the advent of the internet, there are still only a handful of ways to get your film in front of a large audience or to have it be an awards consideration, and that's by playing the game. If you want to raise funds for your film or sell it to a potential buyer, 95 times out of 100, you still have to play the game. The game is the system in place that ostensibly filters out the good films from the bad. And the game is still controlled by the gatekeepers, where perhaps the organizations or people change, but the rules stay relatively the same. In the independent documentary and cinema world, the game looks a little bit like this. Find something you are passionate about and/or have a story you want to tell. Easy. Next, spend hours and hours describing your film, even before you know exactly what it is, to raise development funds. this will undoubtedly fail. So you start making your film anyway and continue to apply for grants or pitch the film at conferences or anywhere else. But the success rate on any of these grants is exceptionally low, though it is possible to get them. Then, actually make a great film. Once you have a film done, then you have to get into a top-tier festival. That is pretty much Sundance, South by Southwest, or Tribeca. Sundance has an acceptance rate of under 1%, so that is a nearly impossible task. You'll spend thousands of dollars trying to get into film festivals, despite your chances of getting in being pretty darn close to zero. But lo and behold, you get into Sundance, like we did this year for King Cole. Then you have to spend thousands of dollars just to go. It is expensive. Then you've got to hope your film makes a splash and be one of the half dozen films that actually get bought at Sundance. But unfortunately, you've premiered your film during the worst year for buying films in over a decade. So if you don't get bought, you wonder what the hell to do next. These 3 or 4 big steps, raising money for your film, actually making a great film, getting into a film festival, or getting purchased by a buyer, each have about a 1% chance of happening. Even if your film is great, it may not matter. Funders have things they want to fund, and maybe your film doesn't fit the subject matter this year. Same with festivals. And of course, buyers want films that will be hits and drive revenue or win awards. All in all, it adds up to a long, drawn-out attempt to stick a camel through the eye of a needle, as the saying goes. But what I've seen from YouTube is many filmmakers bypassing these gates and gatekeepers to go out and make great work. And that's been really inspiring and has really pushed me to make this YouTube channel with the possibility of doing the same. The doc and film industry is fickle, slow, and struggling. If you have been paying attention to the doc and film industry lately, you know that there have been a lot of talk about how the industry is in trouble. On the big budget front, superhero movies and predictable blockbusters are struggling at the box office, with most of the films losing money or barely breaking even. On top of that, the film and television industry seems to be in a creative rut, with everyone just hyper-focused on their IP and sequels and what they think will be surefire hits. Peak documentary, where documentaries that used to have to beg, borrow, and steal to get made and then hope for publication on PBS were selling for millions of dollars during the streaming wars. Everyone thought that this was the new normal, but it doesn't appear to be so. Surely more films will be bought as we move further into the year, mostly because the Netflix and HBOs of the world will start seeing chances to win awards and Oscars with documentaries that seem to be pulling ahead in those specific races. But in general, sales are way down, and I doubt they'll rebound for a few more years or ever. On top of that, the industry moves really slow. While it takes time to make great films, the meetings and the pitches and the negotiations all stretch the process out until you start to even hate the idea of selling anything ever again. While that might be a bit dramatic, it is definitely exhausting to continually hustle and pitch and apply for grants at film festivals. Releasing the film sometimes takes longer than the actual process of making the film, and it sure would be nice to have an audience already waiting for your next release instead of begging the gatekeepers to release it for you. All in all, starting a YouTube channel is my way of potentially bypassing so many of these gatekeepers and instead focus on the films I want to create and that I think audiences will actually enjoy, while at the same time hopefully imparting some wisdom that stems from my decade-long career in the doc and film industry. I really enjoy being helpful and relaying all that I know to either young filmmakers I work with or who reach out to me, or on here to anyone who wants to view this channel. So I hope you can glean something from these videos. There's plenty more to come, so please subscribe and we'll see you in the next video.